Good evening, Booktopians, and please give a very warm Booktopia welcome to Delta Goodrem.
Hi, everybody.
We'll be live with Delta for around the next 30 minutes or so, talking about her brand new book, Bridge Over Troubled Dreams, which you can order right now at booktopia.com.au. If you click the link in the episode description here, you'll be taken to our website where you can order a copy, and we still have some signed copies available. So if you want that extra special bit of memorabilia with signed copy, please order now. As of this recording, we still have some left. Comes out on Friday, and you can still secure a signed copy if you order. So don't miss out. And you can also ask Delta a question in the comments. If you have a burning question that you just need to have answered, please pop it in the comments. We'll do our best to get to a couple of them at the end, time permitting. So we'll begin with my first question. Delta, could you please tell us a little bit about Bridge Over Troubled Dreams, the book and the album?
Of course, of course. Well, firstly, thank you so much for doing this. This is really, really special. I love all my wonderful tribe out there, and then obviously getting to know all the Booktopians and all the fam there. And I'm very, very, very honored in this moment to be able to have my first book, which really makes perfect sense with the album. It really is this album doesn't exist without the book. The book doesn't exist without this music. It really is shared stories and about going to that next layer, about having that check-in moment where you reflect back on life and have a look about, where are we at? What do I feel? And I think being able to put it into 3 minutes or 4 minutes of a song, but then being able to share in this book the deeper dive and all the different branches to the conversations that make up an individual song is really, really special. So the book definitely goes to just goes into depth about every single song. And I'm excited to kind of explore that with you today and talk about it.
Can you tell us a little bit about the title and explain why you chose it?
Well, it's The Bridge Over Troubled Dreams is a lyric in Keep Climbing. And Keep Climbing was a really important song just for that sort of hopeful feeling and the idea of that no dreams come without their troubles. And it was this idea that you hope that it leads to a bridge over troubled dreams. And maybe when you get there, you realize they're not even that troubled. But what it is trying to say that no dreams come without no dreams have an expiry date. And that when I was writing this album, I was in the middle of two mountains, and I kept looking at this, thinking about the metaphor of every time you sort of conquer something in your life, that then the next chapter of your next growth, your next your ever evolving self, and that idea of a bridge that leads you, that path or a guiding light, or the idea of that, it's a hopeful feeling, but it's also about keep moving, keep going. And that's why I ended up choosing this particular lyric out of a song. And I do love finding those individual lyrics that come into a song, and for some reason it felt like the album. It just felt like it was a journey. And so I think that's why I really went with that sort of the feeling from Keep Climbing.
In the book, you talk about your previous albums as being snapshots of times in your life, whereas this one is more of a collection of those snapshots. At what point did you decide that this more reflective album was what you wanted to create?
Well, I think that it definitely just happens naturally. It's not something that is, I definitely had the intention of, I wanted to spend time at the piano and just say my truths and talk about life. But I did share that when I went through a reset by going through a salivary gland operation that ended up having nerve damage, and I've spoken about that. And I think in that moment of having that silence and stillness, and that moment again to reflect and observe, I ended up sort of having that, it's like we're always going, busy life. And then having that moment of sitting in the garden going, well, how did I get here? Let's go back to the very start. And then what I realized, what this whole album, this whole journey was about, owning my story and owning the parts of me that I felt were challenging, or owning the parts of me that were strong. And I think that's why this book and record kind of go together as a family. Yeah. So it wasn't so much a snapshot
in creating,
of a sorry, my friend, it wasn't so much a snapshot of the last couple of like chapters. Normally when I write an album, I know a lot of my friends who are on here right now know this about me. I tend to want to talk about what's happening in the moment, but this was definitely a collective feeling of, okay, you know, and this is, yeah, it was less of a snapshot, but plenty of snapshots because there's lots of pictures in here as well.
Yeah, that's worth mentioning. It's a gorgeous book. It's full of amazing pictures. In creating Bridge Over Troubled Dreams, you mentioned that you've learned more about album production on this project than you have in the past 10 years of producing music. Can you tell us why that is and why this was a learning process for you?
Yeah, it's a great question because it really is. I've always had my fingerprints, my toe prints, every print of my heart and soul on every single album I've ever made, and they have reflected exactly. They're no less authentic in any moment, and that's what I always share with people. It's like those albums mean everything to me. Like when I think of Wings of the Wild, I think of how much that record meant to me, and this is the same. It's that the production and what I learned, I really do stand by that. I learned more in this chapter than I had in years and years, and that's because it was a little bit less. There was just going back to that the live instrument landscape, and that means that it was every single giving the musicians like air in the room to be able to breathe on the actual track. And I think that there was a part of me that just if I hadn't have learnt the things in creating this record, I don't think I would have even known what to do in producing so many parts of my life currently, or setting up outlet productions would never have happened if I hadn't have learnt this process and this record. And that process of producing, writing, and really just living and breathing it was really, really an amazing experience. But I learnt a lot. And when you're doing it live with musicians, you definitely can't decide later, I actually don't know if I want that drum beat like that, or I don't know if I want that part like that. You're like, no, we're committing. We are committing. That's what you wanted in the moment. That's what you felt. That was what the song asked for. So the sound of every track, I paint these things anyway. But I'm really proud of, producing it. And again, I learned so much.
So I know I said we'd hold audience questions to the end, but they're coming in thick and fast, and I'm not going to be able to moderate all of them. So I'm just gonna pull a couple out as we're talking.
Okay.
So Sarah asks, who is your biggest inspiration and why?
Who's my biggest inspiration? Oh, I mean, goodness, I've always kind of taken the idea that inspiration is all around us. And currently on this record, I kind of had a lot more of diving into the greats that had inspired me. Like there's a song, Everyone's Famous, where it talks about like Whitney and Mariah and Cher, and it talks about the people that I looked up to in life. And obviously there's a song called Dear Elton on the album. So I really play on the inspirations sonically and lyrically of what I grew up with. And instead of trying to chase any trend musically, I stayed true to what's the music that I love, the great music that I love.
So this is your first book. You're a debut author now.
Yes,
can you tell us a little bit about what the process of writing the book was like?
Process was actually started when I started making this album. When I was sitting at the piano, I had my beautiful white piano in the corner of a room, and as I shared, in between the two mountains that I was really staying in most of the time. And what was the question again? Sorry, it's been a long day. My brain just went completely. What was the question again?
What was the process of writing the book like?
Oh, yes. Writing the book. Sorry. Basically then I think I actually went and visually went back to the apartment, and I was writing at the white piano just then. But what I started to do when I was sharing stories as we were writing and went back to kind of, I share in the book that I went back and started recording, like talking about my entire life. And that process then started conversations like what we're having, where I started to say, actually, did you know that the way I came into the world was through born from a car crash, and I'd never shared that or written a song about it. And all of a sudden I started to share in detail these stories. So therefore I started writing down all these stories that I realized that I hadn't shared. And then so collectively along the way, I had numerous kind of parts of the songs. So the songs really did dictate the writing. And then I started to obviously as I was writing the words and talking them, then you start to kind of see them in a different way again, and you're like, I started to kind of, I'd walk away, then come back, walk away. I think it's important to sort of start writing, walk away, say it all out there, and it's the same principles as when you are, I guess, sharing your heart and soul in a song, but it's finding the right words to be able to. Sometimes I find it much better to write or type than I even do sometimes speaking.
So my next question was, is there kind of a different creative energy that you bring to writing a book than you do to writing an album? But it sounds like they were very, very intrinsically linked on this occasion.
Yeah, I think that they were very, very, they were definitely linked. I found it, I would always class myself, because I have been a songwriter my entire life, that writing and observing, like writing. My cat is running around the apartment as we are talking. I don't know if you can hear him. He literally was just Spider-Man at the couch. So, he's moving to the other room now. But yes, I've always been somebody who is a life writer. I've always been fascinated by, what have I learned? What am I learning? Why are we here? What's the universe? So I think that naturally I have always, being a songwriter it's part of sharing your heart, your truths. But I get a few more words than trying to put it into just a song. At least now I can keep going like I chat. Otherwise, trying to put them all into a song, this is much better. I think I found my niche personally.
Another question that's come through that I wanted to ask, I think it's a good one, is Marinda asks, which song on the album took the longest to write? And I assumed that because you were writing life stories and a book at the same time, that could be a very interesting question.
What song took the longest to write? Well, I have to say I did rewrite lyrics a couple times. I did rewrite Paralyzed's lyrics a few times, because I would get literal and then I would go metaphorical. Then I would come back to being a bit more straightforward. Then I would veer away, because I didn't know at that point if I would ever share why this new music was written and what had happened. But in that respect, there was a few different versions of that. But one of the very first songs written was The Power of a Prayer, which it was called, but then it ended up being called The Power, and that was definitely a little bit, that ended up having a second life, but it didn't take longer, actually. To tell you the honest truth, they weren't overly like laborious. Like I was really thankful. I got with very close kindreds. Therefore, we didn't stop, and that was really important to me, because I actually am quite you might be able to tell, Mark, but I'm always sort of going. It's just a part of my creativity. And I think that I don't like to stay too long on an idea. I like to move forward. I like to keep going. I like it to like flow. Like your jumper looks something. It's like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. You want it to kind of be natural and be coming from, an inspiration. I find that I am better as a writer when I am relaxed, happy, and just kind of moving forward. If I try and sit and make it hard work or sit there, I find I have to start cleaning the house, like as I start to, which I'm sure my co-writers will tell you, that I start to get like, I'm just going to start cleaning while I'm thinking. I'll start moving while I'm thinking.
We've got quite a few people in the comments asking if they can see your cat.
They see my cat? He just, yeah. We can. I'm calling Beanie to set, please. Calling Beanie for Facebook live chat. I actually wish I could have turned the camera and you had seen what he was trying to do. He definitely wanted to speak to everybody. So, Beanie! He will make a cameo appearance at some time, Mark. They're trying to catch him now. Now he thinks it's funny.
Well, while he's on the way, I might ask my next question, which is that you started in the music industry at a time before Spotify and streaming services, and I guess people bought your first songs as CD singles. And so you've witnessed some very big changes in the music industry. What do you think would be the biggest change you've seen in your career?
I mean, without a doubt, from the day I started, the evolution of the music industry it's always going to change. All of our industries are constantly changing, and they have to, because that's technology. It's new eras. It's different, new culture with social media, and I definitely, without a doubt, have. I always think to myself, I wonder what different artists had seen from like the 70s and 80s, and then seeing go from that kind of music. But I can safely say that I'm grateful that the creativity that we have to be able to connect with people, and like what we did with Bunker Down, staying connected to everybody here. He's just sitting here, so thank you. Oh, okay, this Beanie. Have you seen the evolution of different?
Hi.
Hi, Mark. Hello, Booktopians. Hello, our friends. Yes, he's going. I think he's going through a real phase at the moment. This is Beanie. But definitely, I think that it's very hard to take me seriously with this, isn't it? All right, Beanie, say hi to everybody. Hi, everybody. Oh, okay.
Hi,
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Beanie.
Uh, and then to see, the song "Everyone's Famous," it talks about the fact that it is a new world, and finding yourself as an artist continually in these different worlds, and saying, well, this is not what I grew up with. So the mystery of the art was a totally different era. But you just have to keep learning and evolving and moving with it. And I'm thankful that even though I'm still young, 20 years later, I'm still getting to do what I love to do, and do it with all of you here. So it's great. And do new things like write a book.
You mentioned just now everyone's famous, and something that stood out to me in that chapter is that you said you don't see yourself as a celebrity. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with fame and your thoughts on why and how people are pursuing fame in 2021?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. I just didn't. I never really associated myself as I never called myself famous, or never said celebrity. I always found that to be just a part of me that wasn't a part of my vocabulary. And I would always say, yeah, I live a life in the public eye, and I've lived it, since I was a teenager. I think it has different connotations again today, but it's just a language. It's just a part of, I guess, you always, because I've been through many different chapters in that relationship, my intention has always been true to what I got into it from day one. And that was to touch people's lives and inspire people's hearts. And that's really been my intention, to connect on the human experience, talk about what we have all, our shared experiences. And someone told me recently, because I started to feel a little bit like I was sharing so much again, but then reminded me the reason I do this is because I know somebody listening is going through it. And that is something really special to share with people. And that's me. My intention is the arts, music, writing songs that are part of your lives. When my music happens and the books happen, this is about having a conversation, a connection. That's what's important. But it doesn't mean that there's any less connection in what people are exploring now, and all power to people that are finding businesses and creating. I think all of that is wonderfully exciting. I do in the books talk about the cautions of, if you're not in this for a really good reason and a really good intention, then it can be very hurtful to your life. And it really depends on the people, because when I see what some people go through, I think, I don't know how they would go through this without having an intention of art, or a story, or something that they've written that's creative, or a fantasy, anything. If you don't have a reason to deal with all of that, I don't know why you would choose it, So that's the part but then again, I've only known one way, and that is, I have been blessed to get to do what I love and live my life in front of people. So I guess maybe I don't know that other side anyway. So then there's me having the balance of understanding. I don't know what somebody else's goal is from that, and that exciting. So then, again, I want everyone's dreams to come true. I have no other kind of golfer people except for that. But I do caution that it's definitely a slippery rope, a slippery slide. If you wasn't a rope, a slide, definitely a slippery thing to go down if you want to go down it without having something else to kind of love and hold you in it.
Another question. Your friendship with Elton John is explored in the song that you mentioned earlier, Dear Elton. Can you talk about what went into writing this song and what the story behind it is?
Yes, of course. I think this is a really magical moment, this song. I knew I had to watch this movie with a bit of space around me, and I spent some time when this moment happened. I was like, okay, I'm ready to watch the Elton John movie. And being a piano master, very inspired by Elton, I ended up getting straight off the plane, going to the piano. I just had it in my head. I was like, I'm going to write this song, and then wrote this kind of like a love letter about finding who you are, and you're saying, I'm here now. This is who I am, and a beautiful connection to Sir Elton John, the piano master.
We're getting lots and lots of love for everything that you're saying in the comments. Your fans are just lovely people, and lots of love.
Tell me about it.
And lots of love for CD singles as well.
Singles. Me too. I get it. It's tactile. It's tactile.
Yeah. This entire project, the album, the book, and the tour is all informed by the experience you mentioned earlier with nerve paralysis. And you also mentioned the song Paralyzed, where you express what the challenge was like for you. And in the book, you talk about going on a journey searching for a version of that song that could really tell the story, right? Can you tell us about the journey of that song from concept to finished song?
Yeah, I definitely wrote many different versions of talking about losing my speech and talking about like, how do I want to share this conversation and going through a communication challenge. And it's funny because when I started playing this piano piece, it was as if the piano piece sounded like I was back in sort of one of the back in the tree cafes I used to kind of go and visit in that very quiet time. And sort of it reminds me of this, like I get the whole picture. So even though I did change lyrics a couple of times, that piano piece, when I finally found it, just from sitting and, just dancing on the piano until you see something that feels right. That was a really beautiful process. But I'm trying to remember back in my head because the bridge is my favorite bridge, like on this record. And I would tell you, Mark, a lot of people who are watching, who are part of the music friends and all the new friends who are a part of your wonderful Booktopians, I would say that in a bridge in music, or that moment just before the hero kicks in at the end of the story, that sort of 3/4 of the way through moment of we can do it, is always my favorite part of the story. And it's the part in Paralyzed where it's like, it's the fight kicks in and you're like, with a little time and a little love and a little lie, you never know, like just that, and better times, big dreams. And that part when it kicks in is like my, let's go, come on. And I think that's, like any story, the arc of that moment kicks in. That's when I feel the feels.
So a question that's come up a few times in the comments that I wanted to pass along to you is, if you weren't writing music, what do you think you would be doing?
Right now I have myself on a beach with a pina colada, but generally speaking, I'll go back into a different mode. It's just from our, if I wasn't doing what I do, where does my brain go to? What would we be doing? Most definitely I would be a snow skier. So I'm actually the opposite to a beach. It was just a joke. Not jokes. I would definitely say being a professional snow skier would have been my other kind of thing to do. It's true.
Awesome.
Sports.
Kill Them With Kindness is a song that expresses where you are now in relation to the trolling and the negativity that you can often get as somebody who is so in the public eye. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean by Kill Them With Kindness and how you came to this Kill Them With Kindness place that you're in?
Yes, it is a, I think, a great message in the lyric. It's saying, and I share about what it's like going through those storms, because I know everybody seems to experience it right now. Every single person, no one's exempt from it. But in my experience of that sort of feeling of if it just keeps going, keep going, then eventually you don't feel it. And I think that the idea of, at the end of the day, you just live life in kindness. And the exact lyrics that says, I believe in peace. And, you know, I love the lyric that says, I don't care if this song's too much. I just don't care. I've had enough. All I know is I've got to live my life in my truth, be kind. And in the book, I share about, you know, numerous moments where I've had quite a intense experience of that kind of intense negativity, and what it's like to just then go, you know, at the end of the day, I live my life with kindness. I think it's important. And if you're not going to say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And that's how my mom and dad brought me up.
One question that's come through on the comments that I really love. Has your cat ever inspired a song?
I'm not going to lie. I wrote a song for him the other day. And it was something like, shall I sing it or not? It was actually a really good song. It was like, because I was going away on the Port Douglas trip that I got to go, which I was very lucky. Little adventure over here, I'll tell you that. Crocs and all sorts. No, it was so awesome. What was the song here? Goodbye, Beanie. Goodbye. Oh, gosh, what's the melody? Goodbye, Beanie. Goodbye, Beanie. Goodbye, Beanie. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye, Beanie. Goodbye.
Now your publisher is going to have to add an extra chapter to the book.
I can't believe it's been a long day. You have all just asked me to sing Beanie's song. Okay, I am mortified but hilarious. That is
look.
Next single.
I could tell you, people love it.
Well, you know what? The thing is that there's a lot to share about Beanie. So if that's not a chapter that should be in the book, dear Beanie. Today I wrote you a song. I was heading on an adventure to see crocodiles, mud crabs, and sharks, reef sharks that I swam in. And luckily, it's okay. We'd say, hello, Beanie, when we get home. The end.
Bonus track.
Exactly.
Not too many recording artists have written songs about their own births. And you mentioned before the song Crash. Can you tell us a little bit about the story behind that song?
Of course. The story behind Crash is talking about coming into the world, and I realized that it's funny because you think to yourself, well, why wasn't there ever a song? Why didn't I ever write a song about this? And sort of in sitting and going back to the very beginning, I love the lyrics so much in this, and in the book, kind of diving into, I checked in with Mum and made sure we talked it out and made sure that, because when your parents tell you their story and then you have it in your head for so long, and then I checked in with them, I'm like, is this right? And and they're like, yes. They couldn't believe that I wrote a song about it, and then obviously writing about it, because my parents, I've obviously lived my life in front of everybody, but my beautiful parents, none of them chose to do music, but they choose to support my music and be a part of it. So sharing their story was important, that they felt comfortable as well.
So we're almost out of time. I still have a couple of questions that I wanted to ask, but I'm just going to pick my favorites.
Yeah, go for it. Because I spoke so much, and we obviously ended with a Beanie song. So please, Mum, tell me what else.
All right. The book wraps up with an exploration of the song Play, and it's inspired by something that the writer Alan Watts said about life. What did he say, and why did you connect with it so strongly?
Yeah, it's this song is actually crucial to the album as well, because it was the concept of that we're supposed to dance while the music is being played. And I thought at the very end it says it was a musical thing and you're supposed to dance while the music is being played. And I just think that's such a wonderful metaphor for life. And the lyric in play and the conversation. Basically, again, I share all these stories in the book, but I got my kindreds, all the people that I had written very dear songs to my heart. You know, Audius, who I wrote Born to Try with, Vince Pazinga, who I've written numerous songs and has been a co-writing friend of mine, DNA, who we wrote Wings with, Matthew, and myself. And so we got together and we ended up sort of just having this conversation about like, what's next on this record? What do you want to achieve? And then Anthony played us this video, and it was saying, you don't work the piano, you play the piano. And I think because I resonate with the playfulness of what this message was saying, but then saying that life was an analogy of music, and then I obviously fell in love with that idea and this ideology. So I was like, oh my God, wait a minute, of course, life is a musical thing. Of course it is. But that's a very emotional track, yeah.
Yeah. I'll just ask one more question and then we'll let you go. You have 9 #1 singles, 6 #1 albums, 12 ARIA awards, a Silver Logie, 3 World Music Awards, legions of fans. You're about to share your latest creations with the book, the album, and the tour with the world. Where do you see Bridge Over Troubled Dreams fitting in your career? And are you off for a well-earned break after this, or straight back into the creative process?
No rest for the wicked. No. I've got too many ideas. I've got to do my tour at the end of the year. I'm already starting to pull all this together. You wait till you see some of those book quotes up there. That's all the exciting parts as well. But no, you know, this book is another era of life that we're sharing, another moment of, you know, another moment of music, and it's being true to who I am right this moment and what I'm feeling. And I think that this record feels like the beginning of a very new chapter again. And I hope that it's a wonderful one that people can take home into their hearts, and that when they read the book, that they feel that it's not just my story, it's their story, and there's something in it to take away for them. There's a lesson learned. There's a you know, I'm gonna be cheeky. There's a couple of things in there where it's like, hey, don't do what I've done here. And this is a good idea here. This is here, you know, and I think that's the beauty in, you know, in this messy life that we're all, you know, kind of doing our very best in.
Well, on that note, Delta Goodrem, thank you so much for joining us tonight and for talking to us about Bridge Over Troubled Dreams. Delta fans who are watching, thank you so much for joining us here at Booktopia tonight. And if you do want to place an order for Bridge Over Troubled Dreams, if you haven't got your copy yet, you can do so right now at booktopia.com.au. As I mentioned before, we still have signed copies. Delta was in here signing away a couple of weeks ago. So we still have some of those copies left. Get in quick and you might be able to get one. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Mark. You're amazing. Great interviewer.
Oh, thank you so much. Right.